Hey, what's up, everybody? This is your boy Kenny, and this is Oprah's Masterclass Season 6, and this episode is about Steve Harvey. But before I get started, let me send my love and condolences to everyone that was affected by Hurricane Harvey. If you can, give any type of relief or, donation to the cause of helping to restore, cities like Dallas, Houston, and Corpus Christi, please do so because these, our fallen brothers and sisters need our help, and we need to be there and support them in any fashion that we can. All right, now getting to the actual episode in question, it's about Steve Harvey, and I can go on to say Steve Harvey is one of the most inspirational individuals that is like killing the game right now. I mean, he's not only a comedian, but he's also a radio host. He's a talk show host. He's a game show host. I mean, the man is on TV all the time, 7 days a week. I mean, he has shows like Little Big Shots, which actually shows, the uniqueness of kids and their talent. And then he also has this new show called Thunder Roam, which is a show he created that actually gives money and opportunity to new up-and-coming entrepreneurs and creators, which is phenomenal. I mean, Steve Harvey, and then not only that, he's also a best-selling author. So this man is like a jack of all trades. I mean, he kind of refers to himself in this episode as the big black Nike swoosh. And I thought that, that definitely was perfect, and comparing himself to that because Nike's everywhere, just like Steve. Steve is everywhere. There's not a day you turn on TV the week that you don't see him. So, and he actually gave a lot of great points, within this episode, and I'm gonna elaborate on each one. The first point that he made was face the fear, and he compared this to his first HBO special, and I actually saw that special when it came out. He said that throughout the behind the scenes they were having a lot of technical difficulties, so he was on stage behind the screen, the audience could see him, but he couldn't see the audience. So the audience is getting like, Steve, we want Steve, and the screen was stuck for a good minute. So he felt like, all this adrenaline coming. He said that his heart was jumping out of his chest. He was that afraid. But finally the curtain opened. He says when he came out, you could kind of tell in his face that he was very disheveled by the fact that all of this tension, had risen up. But he said that when that curtain opened, it was time for him to go on. And he pretty much decided that he could have let that fear overtake him and could have completely clouded everything that he was going to do that night. But instead, he faced it and just delivered, and he gave a great show. I remember laughing a lot during that HBO special, and it's definitely a memory of mine. But then again, it also enlightened me because I had no idea that was going on. And it just goes to show you how much of a professional and how much of a strong person he is, that even through one of the most fearful moments of his life, he faced it and he delivered. And he did beyond expectation. So that was great. Another point he mentioned is envision it. That's a great point he made, that whatever you want to do, you have to envision it. And he talks about when he was a child, he had a stuttering problem. And when he was in the 6th grade, his teacher gave him an assignment to write down what did he want to be when he grew up. So the whole class wrote everything down, but he put on his paper that he wanted to be on TV. Now, and this was really, really interesting to me because the teacher read everybody's answers, but when it came to him, she made him get in front of the class. He's thinking he's going to be rewarded for his answer or he's going to get a gold star, but what she did was demean and humiliate him in front of the class. And she pretty much says that you know, so why did you put this on your paper? You know, who do you know ever been on TV? I mean, who do you know has ever been on TV? Who in your family has ever been on TV? And you can barely talk. You know, when did they ever put somebody like you on TV? So she was literally demeaning him, and to that point, I was like, she should be ashamed of herself to even do this to a child. But there's some of the things that people do. Like when people see greatness in others, they're quick to demean and put them down because they don't want to see them excel. And because they are happy with themselves, they take their anger and frustration out on someone innocent. So she says, pretty much the teacher was like, you know, since you want to be a little smart aleck in class, I'm going to let your mother know about this. So she pins his paper on his chest and pretty much calls his mom, and, you know, pretty much he goes home and he has to face his mother. His mother is like, you know, so what is it that you doing being a small addict in school? And he's like, I didn't do anything. I just put down that I want to be on TV. And she says, why would you put that on your paper? You know what? You just wait here. Your father gonna deal with you when he gets home. So his father showed up, and the mother told him about what happened in schools, that he being a smart addict in class, saying he want to be on TV. And his father was like, what's wrong with that? You know, and you know, she's saying, like, you know, he's being a smart addict in school, and the father was like, well, like, what's wrong with him saying he want to be on TV? I don't get it. So his parents have an argument, and they send him to his room. So Steve thinks he's gonna get disciplined for this action, but his father came in the room and said that, okay, I want to ask you, what does she want you to put on your paper? And he said, I don't know. She just asked us what we wanted to do. I said I wanted to be on TV. He says, you know, well, what do you think she wanted you to put down? She said, I don't know, maybe like a basketball star or rapper or something like that. He says, okay, put down what she wants you to be on that paper, but the paper you wrote, you know, about you being on TV, he said, keep it. Keep it, and he says, I want you to read it every morning, and I want you to read it every night. You know, that's your paper. So it kind of goes back to what we experienced with Tyler Perry when he's talking about, you know, I think the term was cathartic, you know, to write things down, because, you know, you can make your words come to life. And if you envision it and you keep it, you know, you can actually bring forth, you know, whatever dream or aspiration you may have, if you just write it down and continue to, you know, hone it and own it. So he said that that's what he did. He said he envisioned it, and he kept true to that. And he says that the whole tee-hee of the situation is that once he became famous, he sent that teacher that didn't believe in him a TV every single year, and while she, until she passed, and then she was like, boy, you sending me so many TVs, I can't keep them all. I had to give some of them away. He's like, well, that's okay. But he did that to let her know that, I'm on TV, and I'm on TV 7 days a week. So he sent her a TV every year so she can see him on TV, letting her know that one thing that you said he couldn't be, and that you berated him in front of people about, that's exactly what God made him. So it was more like, not only look at TV, but look at God. So I thought that was very awesome. Another point he makes in this episode is be in charge of yourself. He talks about, he used to, there's this fellow comedian, AJ Jamar, who's a friend of his. He used to write jokes for him, like at $5 a joke. And he had asked him, like, where you tell these jokes? He's like, I tell them here and there in different places. And then he meets this woman who's also a friend of AJ Jamar, named Gladys Jacobs. She actually says, so you're the one that's been writing jokes for AJ Jamar? And he's like, yeah. She said, well, why don't you go to the comedy club and tell these jokes yourself? And at this time, he's 27 years old, and the whole thing about a comedy club was kind of shocking because it wasn't a part of his world, and it was very new to him. So she actually takes him to a comedy club, and You know, he's like watching the other comedians, and he's loving it because he's like, wow, I'm finally in an environment with other people who like to tell jokes just like me. So he decides to put his name down for the next week. But one of the comedians didn't show up, so he got put on that night. He wasn't prepared. He didn't have any material, but he went up there and he killed it, you know. And he said that there was a guy on the side of the stage that was doing this, you know, letting him know to cut, but he didn't know what that meant. So he thought the guy was saying, "Oh, you killing it, you killing it." So he kept going until they turned off his mic. And they actually brought, you know, all of the comedians back to see who won that night, and Steve actually won $50. And, you know, he went home crying, and Gladys Jacobs, who brought him, was like, "Boy, why are you crying? It's only $50. He's like, "No, it ain't about the $50. I'm crying because I now know this is what I want to do. This is what I'm called to do." And he said that the next day he went to work and he quit his job. And he said his boss was kind of telling him that, you know, you're going to quit your job to be a comedian. You haven't said a damn thing funny since you've been here. You know, you got a family. You have children. Like, that's the dumbest decision you could possibly make, to quit your job. And he had a friend of his who worked with him, you know, because he had told his friend, he first told his friend that he was going to quit his job. Then he went to his boss and told him, and his boss had told him that that's the dumbest decision you can make. Won't you put yourself back on your desk and get back to work? So he pretty much was about to go back to work, put his stuff back, and then his friend was like, "Yo, I thought you were quitting." He says, "Yeah, but I just had a conversation with Tom, and he said it's the dumbest decision I can ever make, so I'm gonna stay at work." And he said that, and his friend was like, "Huh? You gonna let him decide what's best for you?" He says, "Dude, you're one of the funniest people I know. You gonna let him make that decision for you?" So, you know, it finally dawned on Steve that, look, you have to do what you have to do what you have to do, and a lot of times other people are not going to see your vision. You know, you have to do things for yourself, and that at the end of the day, that's a decision between you and God. That man has no control over your life, and he says if you put that kind of control in someone else's hands, you're in trouble. So he finally got the courage to go back to his boss and said that he's quitting, and, you know, he says, "But thank you for the opportunity." He said he went to shake his hand. The guy, his boss, wouldn't shake his hand. He says that, "I don't shake hands for people who make dumb decisions." But he said he walked off, and he said that, yeah, but he said that in some aspect he was right, because after I left my job, it was hardship, you know, because he had went to a long time when he was broke, and he had actually lived outside of his car for 3 years. So he really did have it hard after leaving, but he believed in his dream, and he believed in himself. So, and it just goes to show you that anytime you want to achieve greatness, you're going to have to face some trials and tribulations before you get there. It's never going to fall right in your lap. And that's something that Steve learned. But, you know, and he even said that during that time, you know, he faced a lot of hardships. He said that he didn't even tell his mother that he was homeless. But his mother allowed him to set up an answering machine in the attic, so in case if he got any opportunities, he can check that answering machine and see if anybody came through. So another point he makes, you know, which I'm about to get into, is don't turn back. So here it is. This man is living out of his car. You know, he said that he would go to like really nice hotels to wash up and everything, and he was in the bathroom, and he said that, you know, it got to the point where he kind of like just hit rock bottom at that moment, because there was a convention at the hotel, so people were going in and out the bathrooms for like about 45 minutes. It was just a slew of people coming in and out, and he's behind the stall all soaked up to the point that the soap dries up on him. And he said he just sat down and started crying, even to the point that somebody knocked and said, "Are you okay?" And he pretty much says that he was fine, but, you know, he was just like, "I can't do this anymore. I'm homeless. I done left my family. I left my kids. You know, what am I doing? You know, I can't take this anymore." So he decides to call the answering machine, and there was a message. and it was by, Chuck Sutton, who has passed on. But he pretty much said that he had an opportunity for him to perform at the Apollo Theater on Sunday night, and it's Thursday. So he's completely like, wow, I got an opportunity, but then again, how the hell am I gonna get there? I'm in Pensacola, Florida, and I have to get all the way to Harlem, New York, and all he had was $35 in his pocket. So then he checked later on and found out that, he wanted to go back to check the message to make sure he said Sunday night, and it said it was Sunday night. But then he comes to find out there's another message, and there's it's a guy, I think his name was Tom. He told him that he has a gig for him in Florida, for $150. And it was in good distance. He actually drove from Pensacola to the other, because it was in another city in Florida. And he drove to that other city and did the show. And he said he was so good that he brought him back, for Saturday night at $300. So he made a total of $450 over that weekend, and he was able to get to Harlem, New York, to do Apollo Theater, and that was his breakout performance, which I think happened, I believe, in 1993. Yeah, 1993, and he killed it, and that was his first time on the Apollo, and he was like, finally, I'm on TV. So he says everybody, regardless of whatever dream or aspiration or career jump they're trying to make, everybody has their turn back moment. And he says, unfortunately, some people actually do turn back because it's getting too hard, it's getting too difficult. You want some comfort, you want some stability. But he says that, if you believe in yourself, don't give up, because once you think the game is up, that's when God shows up and he blows your mind. And we've actually heard this tale many times before, where people were kind of up against the ropes, pretty much at the end of their rope, and they get to a point where they just don't know what to do, and they feel like they're just at a loss, and that's when God shows up and changes the whole direction, and then all of a sudden you reach a new plateau. So I thought that was very profound. Another point he makes in this episode is learn from failure, because he said one thing he would do is that he would look at comedians, who would maybe bombing on stage. He would study them, and he said the reason why he did that was because if they can turn the whole room around, I'm gonna need to learn that trick, because one day I may be bombing on stage. So he says that I don't see failure as failure. I see failure as a lesson to be learned. You learn what not to do. And I thought that was awesome. That was extremely awesome. Then he talks about leave your legacy. And he talks about his family. They pretty much are a mixed family. He had 4 children. His wife Margie had 3. They all, combined and became one family. And even her children took his last name, and they all call him Dad. And I thought that was beautiful. That he really takes family seriously, and he says that about leaving your legacy is not just about the success. It's not just about the accolades. It's about, leaving something that your children and your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren can look to you and say that my great-grandfather was Steve Harvey. He was a comedian, and let me tell you about him. He says that is what you're working towards. That future generations, people who are going to come up after you're long gone, but they will remember your name and will be proud that they can say that you were their, great-great-grandfather, So I thought that was beautiful, leaving your legacy for family. And that, definitely that, you want to live for greatness, which is another point he makes, live for greatness. And he says that success is one thing, but greatness is about your family. And that when you love something more than yourself, that's where you really reach a new level of manhood. And I thought that was very awesome. Another point he makes is read your room. you have to know the audience that you're playing to. And that's not just true for comedians, that's also true for artists as well. As far as musicians or whatever, you want to know your audience and know the right material to deliver to that audience. Because he said that he had did this performance in Boston, and he had did this Ray Charles joke, and he normally kills it with that joke, but this time it didn't land. People weren't laughing. He went in the audience to one of the guys to shake his hand or whatever, and he's saying that, well, at least if you're not going to laugh at me, at least shake my hand. The guy wouldn't shake his hand, and he was like, well, what's wrong with you? You blind or something? And he was like, yeah, as a matter of fact, I am blind. Come to find out, he made a Ray Charles joke to a school of blind people, the Cambridge School for the Blind. They were in the first 2 rows of his show. He had no idea. But another comedian, Larry Miller, you probably know Larry Miller for playing Sherman Clump's boss in the Nutty Professor movies. He's a friend of his, and he's also a comedian. He says him and this other guy named Steve Trilly were the only ones laughing, and they thought he was funny, but the other part of the room didn't think he was funny at all, and he really felt like, dang, like I literally played to a crowd of blind people and I didn't know. So he says that he learned a valuable lesson that day. You have to read your room. You need to know who you're playing to, and that whatever you present is going to go over and it's going to go well with the audience, and that the audience is going to be a part of the experience. So I thought that was awesome. Another point he makes is use your wings. And he talks about his eldest son, finally, I think it was like they were doing a tribute to him at the Apollo Theater, and his father and his son was crying. And he said that, for years when I was growing up, this was the only way I saw you was on television on the Apollo. From when he performed there for the first time, and then when he ended up becoming the host of Showtime at the Apollo. And I remember that. I mean, Steve Harvey, I have to say, was one of the best hosts of Showtime at the Apollo. I used to love it when he was on there because, especially when people got booed, he used to go in, and it was hilarious. But he said that, his son was emotional because he said that, now I'm actually here with you at the Apollo. It meant everything to him because he said that when I was a kid, the only way I could see you was on TV, but now I'm here with you, and it was important. It was really important to him, and it made both of them emotional. But then he said that his life's work has now also been trying to fix the mistakes that he made in his adult life, meaning, abandoning his children and not being there for them when they really wanted him to be there. But he said that, his wife Margie is the best thing that's ever happened to him, and, she pretty much is, somebody that that has been his rock, and she pretty much, lets them, and he said that his wife has this saying that, your wings work, use them. Meaning, and that's what she would tell him as well as, the kids, you have to let them fly. You have to let them fail. You have to let them get it wrong and let them get it wrong till it hurts. You have to let, people try out whatever it is that they have on their hearts or whatever their desire or their dream is. They have wings. They need to fly and pursue it. But they're going to have to deal with the trials and tribulations that comes with this thing called life. So I thought that was very awesome. And the last thing the last point that he makes in this episode, which I thought was very profound, is be relentless. He says that life is a beautiful grind, but it is a grind. It's challenging. You lose people. You sometimes are hurt. You get sad. You get disappointed. But on the other side, living is beautiful. And he says that there are no straight lines in life. If you really look at the map of nature, there are no straight lines. There's always different curvatures. There's always, different paths. There's always different structures. So he says, with that being said, he says that when you feel like giving up, don't. When you think times are getting hard, keep going. And people who tell you that you can't do something, he's like, hey, who are they? Because he said that, people who tell you that you're overexposed, and he says that, I'm a big black Nike swoosh. And I was just like, that's the right attitude to have. Because he's saying that, look, don't let nobody tell you that you can't do something. Don't let anyone hold you back from what you want to do. And regardless of how bad things may get, keep going. Because, on the other side of it, life is beautiful. So that's what I have, guys. If I missed anything, put it down in the comments. I'd love to talk to you about it. But yeah, this was a great episode. But subscribe to my channel. Click that bell so you can get notifications every time I drop a video. Like this video, comment on this video, and share this video. And I will be back with the next episode of Oprah's Masterclass. So until then, everybody, take care.